It's Monday night, and let me tell you, we are feeling all right here in the $10 Sports Man Cave. The Bucking Hangover coming right at ya. Hit that intro.
Touchdown Tampa Bay, fire those cannons!
Oh my.
Yes, everybody, welcome. Good evening. It's another Victory Monday night Bucking Hangover here from the $10 Sports Man Cave. I'm your host, Moose. I'll be joining you alone tonight. Mike is packing for his vacation. Couldn't make it on. I think he's leaving first flight out of Florida, heading over to California. So wish Mike well during his vacation. Hopefully he'll be bringing back some knowledge and be refreshed for week 5 or week 6 of Bucking Hangover. Hopefully we have some big wins to talk about with him. But it'll just be me for tonight, your host, Moose. Make sure you're paying attention to the ticker at the bottom with all our contact information. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribing as well. And, of course, we have our Buccaneers standings, next 3, previous 3, and then our game performers for the game in question, which, of course, the big win against the Los Angeles Rams, which we'll cover in depth in a moment. And then I think we have a slide now with kind of leaders overall for the whole season. So I think we'll put one offensive guy, one defensive guy, and then we got our kickers on there as well, Pinion and Matt Gay with their stats. There's the game leaders stats there for you. So unbelievable game, and I'm eating my words. I've been on message boards. I've been leaving comments on fellow YouTube comment creators or content creators out there that are Buccaneers content creators. I know last week I was poo-pooing our effort. I think one of the comments, one of the more positive shows that I follow is Buccaneers Insider, and they're so positive and great, and I wish I could be that way more often. Trying to be realistic, probably more on the pessimistic side, just because I know how this relationship goes. I've been a Buccaneers fan 33 years of my life. I know how this goes. It goes great, and then you get let down, and then you're just hurt for a while, and then you hate football for a little bit. But then you're back. It's just a destructive relationship. Right now we're at the good part, so hopefully we're really seeing young guys coming together. I think we're really at the beginning of something special, pending some Jason Light decisions to be made at the end of this season. Please get Shaq Barrett a contract. Please think about if we can get a good value contract for Ndamukong Suh. Please bring him back for another year. And please either trade or sign for Patrick Peterson or any cornerback that could really help us in the secondary, or make sure that we're scouting and drafting well, please. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit later on the show. Again, I couldn't believe it. Hopefully some of you I know joined for the halftime summary, and we did a little bit of third quarter action as play resumed. I was beside myself. 21-0. I'm like, is this real life? What is happening with this team? Los Angeles didn't look great. They looked okay, but I think as expected, they came back. And the Bucs kind of took their foot off the accelerator a little bit with the 21-0 lead, and got a little bit tight heading into halftime. To be expected, I think, again, young team, new coach, still trying to get the reins on the team, and 21-0, that's a great accomplishment against a defending NFC Championship team in their own house. By the way, amazing contingent of Buccaneers fans. I've always joked that we don't necessarily travel super well, but that was amazing. It was like a sea of red there, almost like it's like a USC game. There's so much red in the crowd, and you could actually hear it on the TV. So kudos to all the Bucs fans that made the trek out there to Los Angeles to see the Bucs and Rams in the Coliseum. But again, a little bit of complacency. I think we got to safe mode for a little bit, and we snapped out of it. Thankfully, we finally figured out, you know what, we got him where we want him. Let's keep it going. I think it made a difference that we were able to control the clock and we were able to run fairly effectively. I mean, I think we were in the 100-yard range as a team. Los Angeles could not run the ball. I think that's really what's amazing is our run defense, and we'll get into that in more detail. I mean, we're behind at least 2 scores. Jared Goff had to throw the ball 68 times yesterday. That is not a recipe for success unless you have Tom Brady, who's throwing 68 times with his career percentage rating, completion percentage, of course. So let's hit some of our big topics. We'll bring them up above me. Got a new ticker above me as well. It's amazing what you can do with technology, right? So let's celebrate what we did well. And by and large, the whole game was just phenomenal, and a phenomenal effort. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was only watching snippets on Red Zone as much as they would show me. I'm still a little mad at Red Zone. They don't seem to like Buccaneers coverage until the game was getting interesting, where it's like, wow, the Buccaneers are really making a difference. It was almost like a pity when the Bucs went up 7-0. It's like, oh, this happened 5 minutes ago. Here's the touchdown for a 7-0 lead. This shouldn't last too long, right? That was really the impression. But I think as it got to 14 and 21, and then the Bucs, the score started eclipsing 30 and 40 points, they were getting majority of the screen time. So it was nice to see at least the end of the game. We didn't see too much of the beginning and the middle. So what went well? I think Jameis Winston had a great game, probably one of his best games that he's had potentially as a Buccaneer. He controlled the football. Once again, the complimentary pick six. We'll forgive him this time because the margin of victory was so big, but just a poor, the usual error of trying to make something that's not there. Ended up throwing a pick six. Really didn't have an effect on the game. It was starting to potentially turn the momentum, but again, the offense came out right after that score and set the tone and actually scored again. Rojo, what a performance again, almost 100 yards. I think he had about 100 all-purpose yards. He get his receiving yards in there. This is the back we want to see. I think he was underutilized in the previous regime with Dirk Cutter, that lost favor very quickly. We were labeling him as a bust. I mean, mostly because we kind of had to trust the coaching staff, right? They're not playing Rojo. It must be for a reason, and it must be because he's a bust or not effective or doesn't match our scheme. It's amazing what happens when you get a different offensive mind in there and really kind of molds the game plan to the talent that we have. Rojo being, I think, a great talent. Watching him play a couple times, not in person, on TV, whenever they would play Notre Dame, of course, USC being the big Notre Dame rival, so we got to see Ronald Jones a couple times on TV that way, or whenever USC was on TV. Always impressive. I'm so happy that he's getting going. He's leading the team in rushing. I think he's almost at 250 yards for the year. He's kind of almost on pace for 1,000 yards for the year. Should he play all 16 games? I think only just the one touchdown, but I think that will come as we go on in the season. Jumping over to defense a little bit. Third there in our conga line of what went well. You got to put Levante David, you got to put Shaq Barrett, and you got to put Ndamukong Suh all together. That front seven is unbelievable. I think we saw that in Carolina when they bottled up Christian McCaffrey. To a degree, we saw it again last week when they bottled up Saquon Barkley, and unfortunate injury for Barkley, but running game was controlled. I have to go back to see what the stats were in San Francisco and what that running attack looked like. I don't know if they got over 100 there, but their running game wasn't a difference maker. The difference maker was Jameis Winston throwing 2 interceptions for touchdowns for the 49ers. They have neutralized the running attack, and that's been great. It's made teams one-dimensional and predictable. It's just the challenges, and we'll talk about it, what needs improvement. When you force teams to pass, then you better have the secondary to be able to stand up to that. And I think giving our secondary. I might have to give our secondary a pass at least in this game because I don't know if Todd Bowles has been putting them in the best position to be adequately covered or supported because we have been blitzing so much, and I need to look at the statistics at the percentage of plays blitz, but it seemed like we were bringing 5 or 6 or 7 most downs. Again, I don't know if that's just game planning, knowing that Jared Goff gets a little rattled, knowing that their offensive line is, kind of mid-tier and trying to get pressure in there. I don't know what really was behind that. But we have been blitzing a lot, and that really exposes our secondary. That really puts us into one-on-one situations and mismatches when we're pulling in safeties. We saw numerous safety blitzes. And of course, bringing to 2 linebackers, it seemed, at all times. So usually rushing 5 or 6. I'm not against the pressure. I appreciate the pressure. Compared to what we've seen the last 5 years, believe me, anytime we get in the defensive backfield, that's a win for us. We've really struggled with the defensive pressure, but I think knowing that our secondary is so young and still learning, and honestly, we may not have the personnel in 1 or 2 of the positions that are going to be top tier players to be able to get thrown at consistently if the blitz doesn't hit. I think we gotta be a little careful with the blitzing. But again, amazing effort by Ndamukong Suh, especially on the I guess they were calling it a fumble recovery sack. I think it was Shaq Barrett with the sack on that one, and Suh taking that to the house. Heard reports that he 18 miles an hour. That is a large man going very, very fast. I don't know what that equates to in a 40s time, but man, he was moving. No one was catching Ndamukong Suh. Again, Shaq Barrett. We gotta get that man a contract. Please get that extension going today. I don't know what more we need to see from him. Or I think if you remember Emrod in the last $10 Sports or the last Buc'ing Hangover, he was making mention that his contract actually just required him to have 8 sacks for him to get his incentive bonus. So maybe the next incentive bonus needs to be an actual contract for his future with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were talking about a little bit earlier, I don't know how Ndamukong Suh fits into the picture. We have the cap space. For my opinion, he's proving his worth. He still has his little reputation as a dirty player. I think that's, we have to, it's kind of in the past, so I think he's matured as an individual, and he's been stellar. The pressure that we're getting from that position, unbelievable, along with Vita Vea. I kind of regret not getting a picture of him up there. Unsung hero. I think really one of the big reasons why the run defense has been so awesome and amazing and effective has been Vita Vea clogging stuff up. Again, not getting the recognition, maybe not tackling players or running backs or whoever's running the ball on every play, but he is disruptive. And it's something, I don't want to get to the Gerald McCoy and Ndamukong Suh or Gerald McCoy, Vita Vea discussion today, but, what Gerald McCoy really prided himself on, and honestly what a lot of his defenders, would say, or advocates would say, is that, maybe Gerald McCoy didn't have the stats, right? But, he was just disruptive, and here are the stats. Here are the stats here that, the amount of time in the backfield and hurries and, tackles for loss. Just has a different feel with Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea to a degree. I mean, it feels nasty, which is great. I mean, I have a great respect for Gerald McCoy. I think he's a great person. He did so much for the community here, but we needed some of that nastiness to get something we haven't had since the late '90s, early 2000s defense. I mean, Warren Sapp wasn't a nice guy. We need, maybe left that to Derek Brooks to be kind of the nicer guy out on defense. But I mean, our defensive guys were warriors. They were there to play. They were there to be nasty. Next on the conga line, and I have Ali Marpet kind of representing the offensive line. What a performance by the offensive line. I mean, I think I can count the figures on one hand how many times Aaron Donald's name was mentioned when it came to pressure or an effective play. What a performance, Ali Marpet, Donovan Smith even having some time, or DeMar Dotson. Hey, thumbs up, guys. What a way to play, making holes for Brojo and Peyton Barber. How many rushing touchdowns do we have? 3 maybe? Did we have the 3 rushing touchdowns? I think we had 3 rushing touchdowns and 4 passing plus 1 defensive. That would equal 56, 55. I had a couple field goals. I forget. Probably two rushing touchdowns for sure. Maybe the 3rd. I know Jameis had 4 passing touchdowns for the game. There's a stat line for Jameis right there below. 28 for 41, 4 TDs, 1 INT, almost 400 yards. You're looking at Goff's stat line way over 500 yards, but remember, he threw 68 times, and they did put some of one of the Rams' drives when they were starting to come back, and again, this is where we transition into what can we improve, or what do we need to continue to improve as a team, especially going into the next week. And again, it's a liability in the secondary when teams know that they have to pass, and if we're down the road, we may have to play a team that is actually effective at passing. I mean, I think we're lucking out the next few weeks because we're playing Carolina, we're playing the Saints next week, and then Carolina and London, where you have 2 kind of question marks at quarterback. So the one-dimensional game's not going to hurt us too much, I don't think. But when we get into better matchups with better quarterbacks, or towards the end of the season, maybe Drew Brees comes back, but things are a little bit tight. I don't know. I'd be curious to maybe we do need to sit down and look at the schedule at our next episode to see what the quarterback matchups look like, because we still have Matt Ryan twice, not looking great this season. We have, I think we have the Texans coming through town towards the end of the year with Deshaun Watson, not looking impressive so far. Maybe Drew Brees, depending on the time. I think the Saints game is at the back half of the season, so Drew Brees should be back. What division do we play this year? We got the NFC West, right? So Russell Westbrook, I think that's going to be a tough game. In Seattle, I mean, honestly, that's probably a loss for us. Kyler Murray, I think we can handle, as long as we control him, keep him contained. So it might be interesting to revisit the schedule if we look at it from a quarterback's perspective and our ability to shut down the run and really putting pressure on the opposing team's quarterback to make plays. So again, what needs improvement? Really, the secondary is still paramount, and they had a good game. The problem is that we gave up 40 points, or 33, I guess, if you take away the pick 6. So it's still high. It's great that we scored 55, the most points in Buccaneers franchise history. But when you're giving up 33 points, there's still question marks in the secondary. The front 7, I think, is phenomenal. Got to be careful with the blitzes. But again, what are we going to do to the secondary? I just don't know what we can do now. I think we got to play with what we have. But off season, we're gonna have like $50, $60 million to spend like we usually do. What's that bring us? Patrick Peterson, maybe? Are we gonna go out and make some trades? Jalen Ramsey? Is that a name that could make us better? I surely think so. I haven't really looked at the draft class yet. We're so far away from the draft. We're talking about the draft in April 2020, right? Be curious to see where cornerbacks and safeties are ranking in so far. Kind of looking at draft. Maybe it might be worthwhile to see if Mel Kiper's got anything out there to see where. The first pick has to be secondary for sure, unless there's just a knockout choice that's not secondary that we should take. I think the second thing that has to improve and has nothing to do with the Buccaneers. The NFL officiating, oh my God. for that game was horrendous. And I think there were calls on both sides that I was like, what? What did they just call it? What was that one called? I don't know if you guys remember, if you're out there listening, where they basically called encroachment on Carl Nassib, even though he kind of came across or he didn't come across, and then everyone was pointing at each other. So then Daryl Johnson was trying to explain that, oh, well, it's technically encroachment because whatever reason, even though Carl Nassib, I don't even think crossed into the neutral zone. I don't know. That one I didn't know. There's a few pass interference calls, again, on both sides that were fairly egregious. The roughing the snapper, always one of my favorite penalties. Roughing the snapper. But again, NFL officiating has been very, very, very variable, very, very questionable. I mean, I think having red zone this year, it's been interesting to see the different styles from the different referees. I think the commentators are quick to point out a few crews are much more quicker to throw out the yellow hankies than some of the other crews that let the teams play. So NFL, this is to you. We need some consistency with the refereeing. I think we may need need to relook at the pass interference rule, because it seems like this is being used 3 or 4 times a game now. It's really delaying stuff. I mean, I guess this was your way of making up for the Rams Saints call, but now when this is happening 2 or 3 times a game where we're overanalyzing ticky-tack pass interference, I don't know if that's the direction we want to go. Maybe we need to relook at that. But really, the big needs improvement, and I don't want to call him out because, again, I really do think that offensive coordinator is calling a great game most of the time. But where's the tight end usage has been in and out. Byron Leftwich, who, oh man, I just had a brain fart. I was like, oh, the offensive coordinator. Sorry, it's been a late day. I had a 14-hour day of breakdown of one of our mobile vehicles for medical care. Needed repair. It's been a long day. Byron Leftwich, I think Byron Leftwich should have been on the conga line of what went well as well, because I think his play calling was spot on for most of the game. Really, again, kept the pressure on the Rams defense. He exposed them, no question. Knew what plays to call, but kind of O.J. Howard's still a little bit low on the pecking order. I think a lot of projections had him this season, and honestly, it was last season where it was supposed to be O.J. Howard's breakout year. This year was really supposed to be O.J. Howard's breakout year, and we're still kind of waiting. I mean, I think he's had 1 touchdown grab this year, maybe 2. Cameron Brate got some love during the game this week with the touchdown, but O.J. Howard, other than the 1 game over 100 yards, still waiting. So I'm hoping that he's involved in the game moving forward. But especially with the Saints defense coming up, I think he'll be involved next week. Speaking of the Saints defense, that kind of brings us to what is coming next. Right? What's next for the Buccaneers? Big division game against the Saints, basically for the lead of the division. If we just had that New York game, we'd both be going in at 3-1, and a win in New Orleans would have put us firmly in control. And I think we can still be firmly in control if we take the win next week. But again, the big target has to be on Alvin Kamara. The Bucs have struggled so much controlling and containing Alvin Kamara. That is, if there are 3 keys to the game, 2 of those 3 keys have to be how to control Alvin Kamara. Because if we're able to control the rush game, that puts a lot more pressure on Teddy Bridgewater, who's a glorified game manager, and we saw that again a little bit yesterday against the Cowboys, where You know, no touchdowns. I don't even know the last time the Saints won a game. It was back again. I think it was ironically against the Buccaneers back in like 2008. The last time the Saints won a game without scoring a touchdown, a 9-3 barn burner against the Buccaneers back 2008, 2009. It is going to be critical that we find a way to control Kamara on the ground and in the air as well. I mean, that's a favorite target of Drew Brees, and I imagine a favorite target of Teddy Bridgewater because he is so versatile. So if we're able to bottle him up like we've done with all the other major running back threats, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, yesterday with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley had the I love joking around. Todd Gurley had the amazing what's his name Bilal Powell stat line for fantasy. You know, like 10 rushes, 20 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is still great for fantasy because you get your 2 touchdowns. We held Gurley to 16 yards yesterday. I think he did a little damage in the air, but again, Christian McCaffrey, I think all-purpose yards were under 75 maybe. I'd have to double-check that stat line. So if we're able to eliminate that power position at running back, putting pressure on these young rookie and young veteran quarterbacks, that should give us the best chance to win. I think we're going to face a great challenge in the New Orleans defense, which is, I think, slightly overperforming. They looked great against the Cowboys. They shut those guys down and only held them to 10 points. So kudos to them. They've looked pretty darn good this entire. They looked great in Seattle. The whole team looked great in Seattle the week prior. Just storming to the ball. That was one of the games that was heavily featured on Red Zone, and it was amazing to see. Special teams as well. They ran back a punt against the Seahawks. So going into the Hawks' nest and taking care of business with the Seahawks, gotta respect. I mean, I think it's going to be a great game next week. And then we have the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. That is an amazing atmosphere. I don't know if you've been able to get out to a game. Mike and I have been to a game, and I've gone a couple times since I live on this side of the country. Just the best atmosphere to see a game. Number one, because it's not 100 degrees outside. Perfectly climate controlled at a nice 73 degrees in there. And number two, the fans. They are the best. It's such a great experience. Even with a division rival like the Buccaneers, you get a good friendly ribbing, but it's just so much fun. Everyone's so welcoming and appreciative of just being there to see the Saints, and it's a party atmosphere in there. It's awesome, and it gets loud. So I can imagine as an opposing team, it's pretty intimidating being in there in a pretty loud place. Building with a lot of history. I actually didn't recognize how old the Superdome was, and truly what a special place it is, especially with Hurricane Katrina and how it served as a place of refuge and really a symbol of New Orleans unity. So I think that's it for us for the Buc'ing Hangover. What a great hangover it was this week. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. Moose, that's me, and I'm at $10 Sports. Mike is at Balls. Let me make sure I get this right. Balls Brews Bros. Balls Brews Bros. All together. I think I got it right. There it is on the ticker. Balls Brews Bros. All together. Make sure you're following him. He'll be on vacation. I'm hoping he'll be posting pictures, taking his family out to California. So we'll miss him. Schedule coming up, of course. We got $10 Sports coming Wednesday. I'll run that one solo. We'll have the Lightning Show, our Thunderdome Podcast. We'll probably get an episode on Thursday. Season begins Thursday for the Lightning against the Florida Panthers. I'll try to get a preview show up for you guys, kind of showing what the lines are going to look like and the defensive pairings, a couple surprises on who made the team, and we'll cover that on the Thunderdome Podcast in the next few days. And we'll probably have Balls, Brews, and Bros over the weekend. A couple good college games on. thought maybe we'll have another session for the Sunday games. I had a lot of fun. Just chilling on the couch, drinking some bourbon and Coke, and talking right at you. We always appreciate you interacting with us on chat as well and on Twitter. So those will be going live. The Buccaneers are the early game, so hopefully being here in Texas, they might be the game of the week for me at 12 p.m. So I'm hoping it is. That they are, we'll watch most of it together. I'll probably stream here out of the $10 Sports Man Cave. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. It's been the Buc'ing Hangover. It's been Moose. We'll see you next week for our next hangover.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay! Fire those cannons!